Your child dies. Your partner walks out. You lose your job, your country, your name. Not hypothetically, not metaphorically, literally. There are people, right now, sitting in the rubble of Gaza, in hospice beds in Ohio, staring blankly at the last text they ever got from someone who will never answer again. And in those moments, something happens that most philosophy ignores. The scaffolding collapses. The self unravels. Meaning doesn't just fade, it rots. And what you're left with is not pain. Pain would be something. What you're left with is void. And that, right there, is where Keiji Nishitani begins. Not with theories, not with systems, but with the ground zero of being human. The terrifying moment when everything that made life make sense disappears. Western philosophy, from Descartes to Heidegger, has tiptoed around this void, treating it as an enemy, a sickness, a problem to be fixed. Even Nietzsche, radical as he was, declared God dead, only to race toward building new idols from the rubble. But Nishitani didn't flinch. He stared directly into the abyss and said, "Unless we become the abyss itself, we cannot overcome nihilism." This video is not about death. It's about what's underneath everything. Not the end, but what was always there. Ready or not, we're going in. A mother buries her child, and the birds keep singing. The sun rises over a city leveled by an earthquake. A man jumps from a bridge. Minutes later, a jogger runs by, unaware life doesn't pause for our tragedies. It doesn't blink. It continues, mercilessly normal, while entire inner worlds collapse in silence. And that's the lie we live under. That life is built on something, some meaning, some structure, some permanence. But what if it isn't? What if, as Keiji Nishitani argues, life emerges not from being, but from nothingness itself? The nothingness of which we speak is not relative nothingness that stands opposed to being. It is absolute nothingness that is at once the field of being. Western thought treats nothingness as a threat, a void that must be filled with gods, identities, ideologies. It clings to being, like a child clings to a fading light. But Nishitani, rooted in Zen and sharpened by existentialism, does the opposite. He doesn't try to escape the abyss, he digs. Because the void is not an absence, it's a condition. It's not the shadow of existence, it's its soil. This is not metaphor, it's ontological. There is no stable ground of being to return to. There is only the radical, naked openness of śūnyatā, emptiness that gives rise to all things, but clings to none. The myth of Orpheus and Eurydice exposes this fear of the void. Orpheus descends into the underworld, into nothingness, but he cannot resist looking back. He wants form, presence, certainty. And in that one backward glance, he loses everything. That myth isn't about romantic love. It's about our failure to let go of being, our refusal to trust the void. But here's the trap. By resisting the abyss, we fall deeper into it. The more we deny death, change, emptiness, the more we suffer. Nishitani turns the knife gently. Unless we experience nothingness in the core of our being, we cannot stand in the field of real existence. In other words, you only truly exist after the self dissolves. This isn't spiritual poetry. It's a philosophical grenade thrown at the foundation of the modern self, a self obsessed with permanence, consumption, and identity. A self that demands that life means something before it can be lived. But meaning isn't the soil. It's a side effect. The soil is emptiness. We are not here to build on something solid. We are here to move like waves over nothing. And nothing is more real than that. What if the self is the veil, not the center? What if everything you think of as you is exactly what blocks you from encountering reality? This is the paradox Nishitani forces us to confront. the self must vanish for the world to become real, not metaphorically, ontologically. In Religion and Nothingness, he writes, "The self is not something that stands over against the world. Rather, the self is what makes the world appear as something over against it." This reversal is crucial. We live under the illusion that the world is out there, and we, this coherent, internal I, observe, interpret, and act upon it. But Nishitani exposes this structure as deeply flawed. The self is not a stable subject perceiving a stable object. The self is a construct, a function of grasping, naming, resisting flux. And in doing so, it splits reality, artificially, into observer and observed. This dualism is not natural. It is a failure of perception. It is, as Nishitani insists, the origin of nihilism. Because as long as we posit the self as primary, we are alienated from the ground of reality. We begin to doubt meaning, connection, even truth itself. And in this gap between self and world, the abyss grows. This is why Nishitani doesn't merely argue for overcoming the ego psychologically, but ontologically. The ego isn't just a nuisance, it's a false premise, and once it collapses, something staggering happens. The world reappears. Not as the world out there, but as something radically intimate. Not a collection of objects, but a dynamic field in which you are no longer observer, but event. The self does not attain reality by objectifying itself, but by passing through the field of nothingness. This is where Buddhist śūnyatā fuses with existential rigor. The self must die, not in despair, but in clarity, not as loss, but as liberation. And from that nothingness, things no longer appear to us. They appear as us. The tree, the sound, the face of a stranger. They are not things I perceive, but phenomena co-arising in the field where no fixed self stands apart. In this framework, reality is not a stage for the self. It is a movement without center. You don't encounter the world. You are the encounter. Any counter-argument that tries to preserve the ego, be it through science, identity politics, or theology, inevitably reintroduces dualism, and with it, alienation. But Nishitani's move is surgical. There is no ground under your feet. There never was. The self is not something to be improved or expanded. It is something to be seen through. And when it vanishes, reality is no longer a puzzle. Its presence, raw, immediate, unspeakable. We spend our lives searching for meaning and recoil in horror when we find nothing. We long for peace, yet panic at stillness. We claim to want the truth, but only if it confirms the stories we already tell ourselves. This is the contradiction at the heart of the modern condition. We are terrified of emptiness, but it's the only place where something real can begin. Most of us are trained by culture, school, religion, to treat the void as a failure. Silence is awkward. Not knowing is weakness. To feel lost is shameful. But Nishitani turns this upside down. He doesn't patch over the void. He dignifies it. He shows that emptiness is not a lack, but a space of origin. True emptiness is not nothingness in the negative sense, but rather the field where all things come into being and pass away. This insight echoes Buddhist śūnyatā, but also finds resonance in Western thinkers. Heidegger sensed it when he spoke of being toward death. Simone Weil lived it in her radical notion of decreation. Even Meister Eckhart glimpsed it when he wrote, "The soul must empty itself of all things to be filled by God." The pattern is clear. Emptiness is not the enemy of fullness. It is its precondition. And yet, in modern life, we run from it. We fill every moment with distraction. We fear boredom more than pain. We scroll, binge, buy, anything to avoid the silent confrontation with the question, what is all this for? Even therapy, when co-opted by consumer culture, often becomes just another method of ego maintenance, another way to polish the self rather than dissolve it. But here's the truth. Nishitani exposes, meaning cannot be constructed on top of the void. It must emerge from within it. And this only happens when the self, with all its cravings, fears, and fixed identities, collapses. This is not depression. It's not despair. It's deeper than both. It's śūnyatā, the groundless ground, the formless fullness. And the data backs this up in curious ways. Studies in neuroscience show that the default mode network, the part of the brain most associated with the ego, is quieted in deep meditation and psychedelics. The result? People report a dissolving of the self, and paradoxically, a greater sense of connection to everything else. This is what Nishitani meant when he said, "The standpoint of śūnyatā is not a standpoint at all. It is the letting go of all standpoints." The void is not a problem to solve. It is the space in which all problems and all solutions arise. And until we stop treating emptiness as failure, we will never truly be free, because only from emptiness can something new, something honest, something real begin. A man wakes up at 6 a.m. He showers, drinks coffee, stares blankly into the mirror. By 8, he's in traffic, moving inch by inch toward a job he secretly hates, for a life he doesn't understand. He's not suicidal. He's not suffering visibly, but something in him is evaporating, silently, day after day. This is not an anomaly. It's the structure of modern life. Not crisis, but numbness. Not despair, but disconnection. We have routines but no center, plans but no purpose, motion without momentum. And here lies the question Nishitani forces into the open. What does it mean to act from a place where the self no longer stands at the center? Most philosophies assume the self as the starting point for action. The I desires, chooses, executes. But what if the I is the blockage, not the engine? When the bottom of the self falls out, the self is no longer something we possess, but something we become. This is not passivity, it is clarity. To act from the void is not to drift, it is to move without clinging. To do what must be done without making it about you. The Buddhist term for this is mujo, impermanence, not as concept, but as lived intimacy with the transient nature of everything. When you act from that awareness, even the smallest gesture becomes sacred, making tea, folding laundry, consoling a friend, not as performance, but as pure response, without ego, without residue. This is what Nishitani means by the everyday as the site of awakening. Enlightenment is not fireworks, it is walking into your kitchen and no longer needing it to mean something, because you're no longer building your identity around it. You've stopped trying to be someone you just are. And paradoxically, it's here, right here, in the midst of ordinary repetition, that the most profound freedom is found. The awakening to emptiness is the awakening to a world that has always already been awakened. In this light, the man in traffic isn't condemned if he can see through the self that hates, fears, and resents. The problem was never the job. It was the idea that he had to use it to become someone. Acting from the void does not mean detachment. It means intimacy without control. It is a different kind of power, quiet, fluid, without claim. The opposite of this is everywhere. Motivational culture, self-improvement, branding the self, curating the perfect life. All of it built on the lie that the self must be fortified to survive. But fortresses rot from the inside. Acting from the void is not an escape from life. It is finally entering it without armor. There is no ground, no permanent self, no final answer, no fixed center to hold on to. And that is not a tragedy, it is a release. The most dangerous illusion we carry is not that we might lose something. It's that we ever had something solid to begin with. Western thought has always struggled with this. It builds cathedrals of meaning, and when they collapse, as they always do, it scrambles to replace them. God, reason, nation, identity, therapy, self-expression, different costumes, same panic. Keiji Nishitani doesn't offer a replacement. He offers a confrontation, not with meaning, but with its absence. Not to destroy hope, but to expose its false foundations, and from that exposure, to find a kind of freedom that doesn't depend on anything being true in the usual sense. When the field of emptiness truly opens, things come to be seen from the standpoint of things themselves. This is not about becoming detached. It's about seeing clearly for the first time. To live from emptiness is not to float through life untouched. On the contrary, it's to be completely touched by everything, because there is no longer a buffer, no ego, no fixed point, no separate observer. You are not behind your life anymore. You are the life in motion, dissolving and reforming in every instant. And this is where Nishitani's thought breaks the last illusion. We think we must find freedom by becoming stronger, more confident, more grounded, more self-assured. But that's not freedom, that's reinforcement. Real freedom only begins where the self ends. Letting go of the self is not surrender. It is the most radical act available, because only then can we stop reacting, defending, justifying, and simply respond. From clarity, from openness, from nothing. Look around. Our culture worships control, certainty, personal branding, self-construction. But all of it is just insulation against the one truth no one can outrun. Everything you are is temporary. Everything you love will disappear. Everything you fear will dissolve. And so will you. The question is not how to avoid the void. The question is what becomes possible once you stop resisting it. That's the turning point. From clinging to flow, from identity to presence, from fear to freedom. And this isn't a mystical fantasy. It's already true, whether you accept it or not. The self is not holding you together. It is what keeps you divided. The void is not beneath you. It is you when all else falls away. The self that is truly itself is the self that has become nothing. This is the end of the illusion, the edge of thought, the death of the ego, and the beginning of something beyond naming. The void was never the end. It was what carried you here. It was what you were running from. It is what you are. Now step into it and say nothing. Some truths don't shout. They wait in silence. And when we finally hear them, something shifts, not just in how we think, but in how we exist. If this video spoke to you, not just intellectually, but in your bones, then you already understand. This isn't just content. It's a space. A space for those who feel the cracks beneath the surface and are ready to stop pretending the ground is stable. By watching, by thinking with us, by staying until the end, you're already helping keep this space alive. And that means more than you know. But if you feel this work matters, if it's opened something in you, there are ways to go deeper with us. Becoming a channel member supports the time, research, and care that go into each piece. Members get early access, behind-the-scenes thoughts, and a direct hand in shaping what we create next. And if you want to offer a one-time gesture of appreciation, the Super Thanks button is there. It may seem small, but it helps us carve out more time for what truly matters, making philosophy that doesn't just explain the world, but touches it. Still, even if you never click a button, your presence here is felt. Sharing, commenting, reflecting. That is already part of the work. So thank you for listening, for thinking, for stepping closer to the edge with us. This is not a crowd. This is a community, and you're part of it.